My name is David Ramya. I think you've seen that in the email. I'm been with Zip about 2 years now, just shy of 2 years, coming up on 2 years. The bulk of my career was spent with Viking Range. I think some of you are familiar with that brand since you used to be the distributor for it. I was with Viking back in the early days when Viking was a lot like Zip. Nobody knew who we were at the time. And I started working with the Woodall family back in the day, back in the early 90s. So Viking was really just non-existent at that point, pretty much. So I knew Ken Warren, God rest his soul. I knew some of the other guys that worked at VAH back then. Now it's Milestone. And so I saw the transition and the transformation of the company, even though I didn't call on them towards the later part of my career. I had other people. You guys had Dave Spalding locally, who was also a colleague of mine. I also remember Marty totaling a minivan in Greenwood, Mississippi when he was crossing the highway. So some things did happen in our history that were kind of look back and laugh at today, but it was back then it was kind of a crisis. But so I have a lot of history with Milestone. There's a great relationship, and really I'm so thrilled that we're working together again, and hopefully we can have a little bit of fun representing and selling Zip. On the line with us is Doug Johnson. I think you saw him flash on the screen real quick. Doug, would you like just to take a second and tell them about your background a little bit, and I'll get into the presentation here shortly.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the time. Again, my name is Doug Johnson, and been with Zip now going on almost 10 months, and just really a fascinating business to be in, in such a growing business as well. My previous experience was with the Sub-Zero group, so I was with Sub-Zero for quite some time as well. Overall, with the company directly for approximately 18 years, about 16 years before that with one of their partners. But overall, representing the Zip Water now with the installation and service. And happy to be a part of the meeting today, and look forward to meeting you all in person and very soon. And doing some even more extended training with the product to familiarize yourself with the Zip Water products. Thank you, David.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off, and then we'll open it up for questions. Let's keep it informal, if you don't mind. I'll go through this, and if you have a question in the midst of it, feel free to, if you think it's important to answer it right away, please feel free to interrupt. I'll be more than happy to slow down and explain the point. Or if you want to reserve it to the end of the Q&A session, be more than happy to do that as well.
Hey, David, it's Ramsey. Real quick.
Hey, Ramsey.
Hey, sorry, I was trying to finish the call, so I was listening. I wasn't able to say anything. But are you going to send out some of these materials? I know we've sent out some stuff, but yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, anything we create, Ramsey, we'll send it. What we'll do is we'll put it in your Dropbox for you. Dropbox. Yep. Sorry, I drew a blank there. It's really, some of these files are pretty large, and they probably don't go through the hose very quickly. So we'll
fantastic.
We'll get them to you in the Dropbox. Anything you need, any. I think I've sent you some materials.
You have, yeah. We've got some of it out, and we've got some of the video links out as well. But I just want to kind of get it aggregated in one spot. So that's perfect.
Awesome. All right, thank you. As I said, I'm David Ramya, VP of Sales for Zip, actually General Manager. I was the sole employee, American employee, a couple of years ago, started coming into it. There's one gentleman who you might have met if you were at the Kitchen and Bath Show, Daniel, who was there right before me, sort of setting the stage for all of this information. I came in to establish distribution, hire the rest of the team, as Doug included. We have a sales team, we have a service team, we have warehousing management. We liaison with Australia. So there's a lot going on. Although my job is VP Sales, or basically my title is VP Sales, but it's really jack of all trades, so to speak. A little bit about Zip. Zip is a company that was incepted about 72 years ago. The founder of the company worked at a bank, at an office in Sydney, Australia. That's where manufacturing is done still currently. And over the years, he would see these bottlenecks in the break room where people, they drink a lot of tea in Sydney, as they do in London, and that's kind of a descendant of the British people. So they drink a lot of tea, and they used to use the coffee kettles, the coffee makers, to heat water. And the first 12 people got a cup of tea, and then the next 12 had to wait for it to get filled up, and then redispense boiling water again to make another hot cup of tea. So you can imagine, at a large size bank, the milling around the break room, the people not being efficient in the office, and not really being so conducive to the work environment in terms of workflow. So this gentleman came up with the idea of literally creating a small hot water heater, like hot water heater you'd have in your garage or in your back room in your house. But this is a miniature version of it that had a very high heat recovery, and it was mounted on the wall. It was direct plumbed, so it had a water line to it, and it had a spigot at the bottom of it. And they never ran out of hot water coming in and out of the break room. The lines went away, the milling around went away, the efficiency increased, and it became a really hot product in Sydney literally overnight that long ago. It was, right around World War II, soon after. They sold it to pretty much every bank, every law office, every major company. They really sort of mushroomed and spilled into New Zealand, spilled into England, the Middle East, and then a lot of iterations and revolutions going forward. It started to take on a whole new look. And about 20 years ago, it took on the design that we're in today. That was generation 1. We're on generation 5 right now. So you can only imagine the iterations that it took. Currently there are, well, this is old information, by the way, on the screen, 200,000 units installed. That's literally only in Australia. That doesn't include New Zealand, the UK, the Middle East, and now the United States, hopefully coming soon, or the rest of the world. That we're being sold in overall about 70 countries, consistently in about 7, with any regularity, but hopefully increasing as we sort of march forward and invade other countries. We have very little competition around the world. There's a couple of off brands here and there that try to sort of reach what we do, but we are literally, in Australian dollars, about a $400 million business. So we're considerably larger than people anticipate when you look at this little box with a faucet sticking out of the top. It's a lot of systems being sold around the world. So a lot of companies put in 2 and 3 and 4. We've shipped some here in the US. In California, one house had 8. I don't know what they can use 8 HydroTaps for, but they have them in one single home. And you can imagine at a price point of $4,700, $4,800, that's a lot of dollars coming into that home. So it's a lot of opportunity for us to grow to $200 million, $100 million before long. Some of the landmarks that we exist into today, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, Buckingham Palace, Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world. We have one on every floor they use it as a courtesy in that building for people to dispense water. Obviously the Sydney Opera House and many, many, many more. A lot of companies around the world, as you can see on the screen in front of you. Some of them are very familiar. Some are from other parts of the world, but I think most of these you'll recognize as being very global, very high level of presence around the world. We exist in all of those globally. And some of that is already going on in the US, in New York and San Francisco, where they're coming after us and saying, we have this in Hong Kong, we have it in London, we'd like to get one in our office in New York or in San Francisco or Los Angeles. I am sure that's coming soon to Dallas, Denver, Phoenix, and places like where you guys work. So there's a lot more to come for you. Award-winning design. So this is not just a highly functional product, which we'll get into here shortly. There's a really high level of design that went into the product. If you're not aware, not this last KBIS, but the one prior, KBIS 2019, we got second place behind LG. I think, Ramsey, you probably were at that show. You saw LG got Best Product Award. They spent literally $1 billion to develop that product line and get that kind of presence at KBIS. And here we are, this little tiny company coming out of Sydney, Australia, with this little tiny product. We got second place, but we got best, most innovative design, most innovative product ahead of them. So it tells you what kind of appeal it has in the kitchen and bath industry. We've also won Kitchen and Bath Business Magazine's most innovative product design for all of 2019, #1 space. ASID West Coast, #1 place. ASID New York. So we've been recognized by some really high level design communities, and we're very proud of that fact. We're very humbled by it, and we're just eager to be out there more. And it really drove a lot of business to us and people inquiring more and more with Zip, what we're all about. They want to learn more, and there's a lot of aspects of the product we'll get into shortly once we get into the product presentation. Just as a benefit, as you can see, 80% of Zip owners admit that they drink considerably more water than they used to prior to having a Zip product in their home. And that's benefit number one. Primarily is our mission is to get people to drink more water so they're healthy and kind of have a better life experience because they're drinking more water or not drinking, their kids aren't drinking sugary juices and drinks and so forth. So 80% of people who actually have a Zip HydroTap drink considerably more water. And that's based on a well-established survey in Sydney, Australia. So benefit number one. Benefit number two, obviously, is the landfills aren't being filled up with bottles, plastic bottles. Anybody that has one of these also has one of these. So they're taking their bottles of, stainless steel bottles to work with them. They're refilling those and bringing them back. If they work in an office where they have a HydroTap, they have one at home. There's no waste being created. Also, drinking water out of plastic bottles, I think you all know, living in Texas and Arizona and places like that, some of that plastic dissolves in your water when it gets shipped from the manufacturing plant or the warehouse to where it's being sold. You're drinking dissolved plastic into your water. You don't realize it, obviously. You don't taste it, but it's there. And that's a petroleum product. It's plastic. So you're drinking oil with your water. There's also, if you look at bottled water, you look and you see there's always sodium in there to preserve it so it doesn't rot. So you're adding sodium to that water. So the purity of the water that you're dispensing from a Zip HydroTap is extremely pure tasting. There's no additives to it. There's no mixtures in it. It's basically pure tasting and instantly available at boiling, chilled, or sparkling. Very simply, this is basically our iconic product. This is what the original product that was brought into the marketplace prior to some of the other designer pieces that we'll talk about shortly in the finishes. This is the classic. As you can see, it's installed on a font over here. And this font, if you installed it in an office, if you don't have a sink, it actually comes with that extension that starts right about here. If you're looking at the screen, you can see that extension comes with the font. Otherwise, the installation is over a sink and you would be using just the upper part of the faucet over the sink naturally because you got more space for your cups to sit underneath it. And the font installation looks like the illustration here or the photo that you see up there. Very simple to use. If you need to dispense boiling water, which is the red lever up here, you have to cover this button right here, which is a safety button, for it to allow boiling water to dispense. When I say boiling, I don't mean hot water at 190 degrees or 165 degrees, like maybe a Starbucks coffee is about 168 degrees, just to give you a point of reference. This is 209 degrees. If it got any hotter inside that tank, you would actually be dispensing steam. This is how hot it is. And I can't tell you how many times I stop people at a trade show. They want to reach in and see how hot the water is, and I usually grab them and pull them back. I'm on high alert when I try to make a presentation. If I have a barista doing the job, I always warn them, people are going to want to see how hot it is. Please don't let them, because they can get blisters from burning themselves. So you make a hot cup of tea right out of this thing, or if you have a French press, you make hot coffee instantly. Again, it's filtered water, not just boiled. It's also filtered and instantly available. So you block this light with your thumb and you press it with your forefinger, and you can dispense boiling water for a period of 15 seconds. It's designed to shut down after 15 seconds. A container such as this one, which is typical bottled stainless steel bottle, this one takes about 4 or 5 seconds to fill. So it gives you a point of reference. As 15 seconds is a lot of water for you to dispense. If you want to fill a pot for pasta and so forth, you can do it a couple of times, and you get 2 sets of 15-second dispensing period, and you can dispense quite a bit of boiling water as a result. Dispensing chilled water is very simple. All you do is depress the blue lever, and it would dispense chilled water. And also, obviously, pure tasting and filtered as well. And dispensing sparkling water, you would depress both levers at the same time, and it would dispense sparkling water. In all cases, you're able to lock the lever forward, and it would lock and dispense by itself without you having to stand there and hold it or monitor it. If someone has dexterity issues with their hands and so forth, all they need to do is flip that lever forward, and it would dispense for 15 seconds total. Or you can adjust the dispensing time from 15 seconds down to 1 second if you like, or up anywhere in between. So if you have a special, again, a favorite cup or favorite bottle that lasts 4 or 5 seconds to fill, you can set the timer for 4 or 5 seconds, set your bottle underneath the HydroTap, flip the lever forward and walk away, and you're going to know it's not going to overfill and spill into the kitchen. part of that, of course, is you don't want to waste a lot of filtered water. There's a filtration limit on as to how much you can filter. And also, you don't, if it's boiling water, you don't want children being anywhere near it while it's dispensing boiling water. So from a waste and safety issues, that's why it's locked in at 15 seconds. So that question will come up with your customers. And the explanation is very reasonable, I would think. So any questions at all on how to use the classic HydroTap before I move on to the next one? All right.
Nope.
The other designs are the arc and the cube. We probably show both of these, but the usage is the same. The operation is the same. The arc is obviously, most of us here in the US call that a gooseneck faucet. It's really, we call it the arc in our price book. Very simple to use. There are similarities to the way it works with the classic HydroTap, but there are also some differences. If you look at the finger here, the lights on the side of the HydroTap, they both light up at the same color. When you walk up to the HydroTap here, it's always showing a blue light. Blue light means still chilled water, of course, filtered. So when you turn the lever forward or back, you can lock it forward or push it back and hold it. It would dispense chilled water. To change the operation from chilled to sparkling, you tap the upper button here. Once the light turns white, with the white light, you can dispense chilled sparkling water. And then if you go to red, you hit it again, both lights turn red. Again, the safety measure here is you tap the bottom light twice with your finger, then it would flash for about 4 seconds. In the middle of that flashing period, you can actually dispense boiling water. If your phone rings and it was flashing, you walk away from it, it would flash for a couple more seconds and it would stop, and you cannot dispense boiling water. Again, a safety measure so the kids don't climb up there or touch the boiling water and dispense boiling water and burn themselves. So that's really the difference between the two. As you can see, the font here is slightly different than the one that was presented with the classic system. This one does not sit in the font itself like the other one did. So let me revert back real quick. See how this one sits here in the font? This one actually sits outside of it. So you can actually locate that where you need it on the countertop without having to be locked into the faucet itself. So it's sold as a separate entity. Also, the faucet itself, the gooseneck faucet and the cube faucet, have a set screw in the bottom here where you can elevate the height of the faucet. So you can move it up about 3 inches from the current location you see you see it next to a sink. So over a sink, you can lower the height of the faucet, of the dispensing point. Over a font, you can stretch it up so you can fit items such as this one. Again, I keep using it because it's important. That would actually allow it to sit underneath the faucet without having to, scoop it underneath and so forth to be able to make it fit. Also, the set screw locks in the direction of the faucet. So once you lock it in the way you like it, the way it's aimed, you can lock it in so it won't move anymore, and you can move on with your dispensing of the water. Any questions on the arc operation at all, or the direction or the installation of the font? Good? All right. We have videos that actually, when I send this presentation, Jen, I'll put it in your Dropbox and you can probably share it with everyone. There are videos in here, and Doug will probably give you links to all of those too. We might be able to send you a recap after this email, in an email, and give you all the links to all the how to operate something, how to change a filter, how to do all of that. So that's all on our website, but I think it'd be helpful if you guys had them on your phones even. You can watch those videos real quick going forward. Again, this installs and operates exactly the same way as the arc, so I don't want to be too redundant unless you have questions in that regard.
I have a question.
Please.
It's Melissa. On the font, how deep is that space underneath that grid? Like, does it capture much water, or how? I'm just not understanding what the cutout looks like.
I'm so glad you asked the question. The cutout is actually about 4 inches in diameter. It's actually all the way through.
Okay.
The font will actually have an elbow underneath, and it literally links to the P-trap, and it actually drains out.
Okay.
So it's a real drain, and it actually can take a pretty good amount of volume of water before it actually overflows. I've never seen it overflow with a regular HydroTap. I've had people ask me if they could use a regular faucet, a different brand faucet. I can't really vouch for that. I don't know what the water flow levels of that faucet are, but with our system, you'll never see it overflow at all. And there's no splashing because the mesh screen, the way it's designed, very well engineered, to be honest with you. And you'll never see like the water hitting the mesh and splashing anywhere. It just goes right down and goes out. So it is drained out. And I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you for that, Melissa.
Thank you.
This is Stephanie. I actually have a question as well.
Sure.
Can you use it with an RO system?
Very good question. I was going to address that later in the end, but
sorry.
No, good. I'm glad you asked. We might as well, hit it now. And Doug, feel free to jump in if I miss anything. RO systems, in general, we just as a general slogan, we discourage anybody using an RO system with our HydroTap. Number one is water pressure. They don't necessarily have the amount of water pressure you need for the system to actually be able to dispense water properly. Number two, RO water is completely stripped of everything. All the minerals are stripped out. So as RO water comes into the HydroTap, it will typically look for places to sort of stick to, because that's what happens. So you start to build this lime scale inside the system that you can, take it apart and clean it and put it back, but I think it becomes a hassle. So number one is water pressure. Number two, it really creates lime scale unnecessarily. And frankly, the way the water tastes coming out of the system doesn't really, it's sort of a redundancy having an RO system attached to it. Now, if you have a whole home RO system, and many houses do, I know I live in a house here in Arizona that has one, it's not a problem at all because the water pressure on those is completely different. It's much more than adequate. And by the time it goes through the pipes and things like that, it's got some minerals already in it. So it doesn't cause a problem inside the HydroTap. So I hope I answered that adequately for you. And Doug, if there's anything I left out, please jump in and add that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good?
No, that's good. Yep.
The last design that we have here is called the Celsius All-in-One, and you can see the difference. It's obvious to everyone. It operates exactly the same way the arc and the gooseneck and the cube. Basically, the left side of the operation is exactly the same. You dispense boiling, chilled, and sparkling water out of the left side, but it gives you the option of using a regular kitchen faucet. So you've got regular hot and cold water mixer that comes with it. Believe it or not, that is now our #1 seller here in the US. It's taken a little bit longer in Sydney to catch on because they've been selling the Classic as the iconic system they have, and they're selling some more arcs and cubes there in the residential side of the business. Right out of the gate in the US, it's basically catching about 40% of our business is actually going in this direction. We just did that analysis, by the way, Ramsey, for your benefit, literally in March. So we didn't know that up to now because we didn't have really enough of a base in terms of information on data for us to work with. So this actually is now quickly becoming our #1 seller, and chrome and brush chrome finishes are basically are kind of leading the pack. In the other designs, we'll get into the finishes later, but in the other designs, you take the arc. Brushed gold seems to be doing quite well. Matte black across the board is doing very well on all designs, all styles. Matte black is pretty consistent. So, but again, this is catching on very quickly. Again, we don't recommend it over a font. As you can see here, we only illustrate it in the presentation over a sink because it's really designed to be a regular kitchen faucet. And they tend to splash more and people do tend to wash dishes and so forth. It's not really a great application for the font installation. Platinum finishes, and that's what I was going to get into next. As you can see, that happens to be the brushed gold. Sydney actually makes upward of 14 different finishes. We only brought 7 to the US. I think you guys will be glad to see that they're probably the most popular finishes if you're in the plumbing business. I know Bill, you are, and Marty, you've sold some plumbing out here in Arizona. By the way, I'm in Arizona, in case you're wondering. We picked out the finishes that actually sell the most. So if you see the ones with the arrows on them, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Basically chrome, brushed chrome, nickel, brushed nickel, brushed gold, rose gold, and matte black. Those are the finishes that we have available. You probably have those in your brochures, and be glad to send you some of those as well. So that's in the arc, in the cube, and in the Celsius. The Classic, which I showed you early on, only has 3 finishes. It's more of a commercial look to it. It comes in chrome, brushed chrome, and matte black only. It's only in those 3 finishes on the Classic. Everything else can get 7 finishes to it. Any questions on the finishes at all? Okay. technology, I think I'm going to punt over to Doug here a little bit to explain how the system works, what makes it what makes it develop boiling water so quickly, and recovery times. Might talk a little bit about installation. We'll sort of tandem it at the end and take any questions from you guys. So I'm going to mute myself, and Doug, floor is yours, buddy. You
Okay,
tell
thanks.
me. You tell me to flip slides when you're ready.
Okay. Hey, instead of going forward, I'm just going to have you flip back to that to the ARC one just real quick. I'm just going to elaborate a little bit on a couple of questions that were asked there. Just one more. There we go. You'll notice with the control there on the left-hand side, also the installation does provide you the opportunity of putting that control on the opposite side. And you're asking, well, why would that be? Well, that's if it is in conjunction with another faucet, or if it's just easier for someone either right-handed or left-handed. This entire piece can be adjusted to go to the other side. And the other question that was asked too is the font. With the font comes a clear, transparent piece that can be put onto the countertop to provide you the exact dimensions and what you need for cutout, not only in the standalone font that you see here, but also, as David mentioned, the font that is with the classic style, which we can go to now, Dave, where we were to start there, where it has all, the template is very accurate and exact. So it really removes any error from any cutouts within the font type of installation. Just makes it a little easier when we have a visual here. So that's kind of some of the things that you'll see that will come with the product. David also mentioned that we have several videos, but I'll collect all of them for you together, so they're in one spot that's collected that'll go directly to those videos. The other advantage too is that on our website, all those videos are as well available and listed. So if you have somebody in the field that doesn't necessarily have that part of their phone, or an installer that you're talking with, they can usually quickly get on their phone and go right to the website as a resource to go right into a video as well. And they're short videos and to the point. So you can segment them to get right to an area if you're left off. You can pause them as you go. But the innovative technology that really sets us apart, and David mentioned some of the advantages, obviously, is the quick turnaround when it comes to the time of dispensing the water and what's expected. And this is very high expectation with water. As we can see here, this technology that's in a different dimension of a type of command centers, but you notice here that we're looking at, in the red is the hot water tank and the cool water tank. And the hot water tank you're seeing here is what they call a power pulse technology. And what that does, it maintains that temperature of that hot water with a 0.4 degree of Fahrenheit as it's being used. And how it does that is really quite unique. And the innovation is that all of the water that's coming in to maintain that temperature is actually being mixed with the hot water that's already there. It's a stir system that's really revolutionizing how it maintains that temperature to make sure from the bottom of the tank to the top of the tank is consistent in its temperature. And it's not waiting for the tank to drop halfway or even a third. It will support the water fill while it's being used to ensure that that temperature is consistent. And it also holds true, obviously, with the advancement on the cold system as well. It is an air-cooled system, which a couple things, which is nice. It's not using water to cool the system. It is using air-cooled like really all domestic refrigerators do, but at the same time, making it 100% water efficient as well as very consistent again in temperature. It's assuring that that coil from the top to bottom, that's where you can see some of the color differences there in the blue. You're going to see that where that, what they call a condenser, is actually exaggerating that cold temperature throughout that tank as well. So again, the first cup of chilled or sparkling chilled water from 30 is going to maintain its temperature. And it's going to maintain it within that temperature degree to where it's consistent. And we'll talk a little bit about the different size or consumptions of units, which will really determine commercial units versus residential really the need of what command centers are actually doing for the customer. So a little bit of pre pre-selling when it comes to the needs of this, which is also convenience, because it really gives the customer, whether the commercial or residential, an efficient unit for their use. And with that, it really makes a difference on really their overall experience with the product. And David mentioned some of the unique safety features of boiling water, which is always enabled. There are some uh, times where you think that you can unable a safety feature, but being that we're offering boiling water, which, as David mentioned, is preset to 290 degrees, obviously we want that to be enabled at all times. And to assure of that, there is no adjustment or air for that to shut off. Again, you can adjust this temperature as well. You can bring down the temperature from 209 degrees. It can go down. I believe it's 165, David. Is that correct? I'd have to double check that, but I believe it's 165. So if they're not looking for that boil feature, that certainly can again be adjusted to the needs of the customer. David mentioned,
if I may add one more thing on that, Doug, since we're on that setting. Some people will tell you, you know, I drink specific teas and they don't require 200 degrees. They require 183 degrees or whatever for them to be properly mixed with the water. That's the benefit of having this fluctuation in terms of hot temperatures and the adjustment from 165 all the way up to 209. That's one benefit. Some people just don't like it too hot either. So that's really, I think sometimes that comes up when people talk about drinking tea, that you don't want to burn your tea. You want to drink it just slightly mixed with your water. So that gives you that benefit. Okay, sorry.
No, great. I mean, a lot of adjustment there again to the lifestyles of the customer. And David also touched on something here too, is that we're finding here that this is actually a higher percentage being used for the culinary industry. Blanching vegetables immediately and pastas immediately. There's no need to be boiling, even if it's an induction product for taking 2 or 3 minutes. This is done instantly. So just as much on the culinary side as it is for the drinking side, and the boiling features are set to really accommodate to the customer's needs and how they're using the product. Okay, we can go to the next slide, David. I was going to talk about the filtration here.
Okay, next one.
Yep, the next one talks a little bit about filtration. In fact, actually an article came out today in regards to what's the best filtration. You're going to hear a lot of perhaps conversation what the best is and what do you need. When we say we have a 2.0 or a 0.2 micron filter, when you think of a human hair being 25 and this being at a 0.2 micron filter, you'll notice right there, it gives you a visual on how that really is able to successfully filter out not just sediment, where really your 2.5s and 5.0s are more for sediment. This actually gets into a micro biological removal of impurities rather than just sediment. Chlorine and anything that's bacterial designed and goes into water is removed, and as high as 97%, in some cases 99%. So to the highest technology for drinking water, this filter will do that. The next question is really you know, the health effects in and around that, and that alone itself is exclusive in the industry. Again, innovation. You're not just boiling water and using it for food and using it for drinking and so forth, but you're also having the best and healthiest water that's available to you. Without having to worry about where it's been shipped from or where it's shipped in. David mentioned that as well. So basically removing lead, cysts, any particulates, and chlorine reduction. The other thing when we come to taste and so forth, what it has in it is versus not, and think of sparkling water. Most people are kind of get confused on that being considered to be like club soda or soda water. Sparkling water is actually it's a much more purified water. It's not bringing sodium into its taste at all, so it's removing that. It's as well as not harsh on the throat when you're drinking it. And David probably has a good example of that. I mean, having a true sparkling water, which is where Europeans have evolved much longer than what we have, but having a better sparkling water experience, but yet a healthy sparkling water experience by not having any sodium in with that to assure the bubbles, I guess is the word. Um, so not only is it going to be healthy and is the most effectiveness in its health ratings, as you see here in the plate, for those that may come in and ask analytically what this does, this will be available for them to see. Um, the 0.2 microfilter is standard with products. As you notice here, it's a little bit blocked off from what I can see here, Dave, but there are two sizes. There's a residential filter as well as a commercial filter. And really, primarily, it's more volume of water and more time that it can take on. But more importantly, it's more volume, especially in a commercial setting. The filters are actually interchangeable, but for residential filters and commercial filters, they are separated. And as you see here, we have separate part numbers, and you'll see that as well as part of your skewing. There is an additional filter that is optional. We very rarely go to it, but it's a 0.3. And you ask yourself what that might be, what their need for that would be. Is that, again, that would be if the water is particularly have a higher content of sediment, and you seem to go through a lot of 0.2 filters, that 0.3 would be that offering. We have not really found that to ever happen, but in very, very few instances where 0.3 can be available. But these are the standard filters that come with the unit and have been the most successful and actually do the best for a customer's expectations. David, do you have anything else to add on that? Okay. The 209-degree temperature setting is, again, what we talked about. And basically, it is boiling water, as we mentioned. So it's instant. And your chilled water, it's showing here 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this is not the ambient temperature like what the inside of the refrigerator is. This is actually the liquid temperature. And you'll see that vary a little bit within what it is. The ambient is usually in that 37 to 40 degree, like what an inside of the air temperature would be in the refrigerator. This is actually the temperature of the water. Again, maintaining that consistency in temperature, first cup to the 30th cup and going forward. And also being that cold tank, that blue area there is actually sharing what they call that sparkling area. That sparkling area there is sharing that cold. So that, again, is very consistent in its temperature. It's exact, in fact. And the temperature of your sparkling water is going to be the same as your chilled water. Even though you're introducing the gas to it, it's going to be consistent because it's running through that same chamber. So that is as well as just as important, especially if people are drinking both. They will not be able to tell the difference between those two. So temperature performance is exclusive to the point to where it's constantly assuring that that's consistent from the first cup to the 30th to the 40th cup. And I believe the next slide gets into those ratings, I think, David, and that's, I think, where you were going to take over here, just to show the differences between the 6 SKUs that we have, the 3 in the commercial as well as the 3 in the residential, which is basically the volume differences. And I'll let David take over for that.
Thank you, Doug.
You bet.
Make sure I'm unmuted. As you can see, we have 2 different product offerings. Obviously, primarily and vastly is our top sellers are going to be more the residential. For you guys, we obviously, if you have a commercial project, we are able to accommodate that as well. This is reasonably old information, but this used to be the 240 volt unit. Now we have the 120 volt, which is what you guys starting out with. You don't have any of the 240. You don't have to worry about overcoming that objection, because it was to some level an objection for us when we said 240 volts. A lot of people opted not to do it, or couldn't afford it, or wanted to wait until the electrician came in and ran 240 to the site. So now it's just plug and play, and it's easy enough to install for them. So BCS would be boiling, chilled, sparkling. 100/75 would be 100 cups per hour. of boiling water, so B, boiling. C would be chilled sparkling, CS, 75 chilled glasses per hour. So 100 BCS 100/75 would be what this product can dispense in a matter of an hour without really losing any capacity. So think about it, this is residential. A family of, I don't know, 10 would never run out of the form of water they prefer to drink, whether it's boiling, chilled, or sparkling. Just to give you a good reference point from that standpoint. On the commercial side, it's basically the same platform as you can see here. This one is actually shown with a funnel here that allows more air to flow underneath. There's more of a cooling process for this system because it does tend to get a little bit hotter. It's slightly bigger unit. This one is 13 inches in width. This one is about 15 inches in width. So the height is the same and the depth is the same, 18 inches deep, 18 inches deep. But just the depth, the width actually is a couple inches more. It's 15 versus 13. Again, this is BCS 160/175. This one will actually dispense 160 cups of boiling water per hour or 175 of chilled water per hour, chilled sparkling at the same time. So that's really the key capacity. We've never had a customer say, I need one of these in my house on the commercial side. We get some occasion where a small office company, they have 10 people in the office or 12 people, actually up to 20, the system wouldn't struggle at all. So we've had some small office applications where they said, I don't need a unit this big, it's really too much. I only have 5, 6 people in my office. This is much more than adequate. Actually, it's perfect. And we kind of sold the customer really what they were looking for rather than try to upsell them to something that's just overkill for that matter. So that's really the two key systems. You get the option of all the faucets with either one, the option of all the available finishes with either one. We actually show it on a website on the commercial side with just the classic, but you can actually purchase the base unit by itself, the tap by itself, and kind of merge the two together and create a different unit. If you want to use a Celsius or an Arc or a different model with it to make it look more design centric, if you will, if the office doesn't want a commercial looking faucet. But I will tell you that the classic still works with kitchens like Viking appliances or Wolf appliances for that matter, the commercial look. The classic looks really nice with that finish, with that kitchen. The other one, the Arc and the Cube tend to be a little bit more with the new sort of ultra premium, integrated design look in the kitchen. Those two lend themselves a little bit more to that design. But you can mix and match anything you like in that and create the customer experience that they're looking for. So in a nutshell, the benefits for Zip HydroTap is basically pure tasting, boiling, chilled, sparkling, instantly available. The landfills are not an issue. You're not throwing plastic into a landfill, so there's a sustainability story. There's also a culinary side where the customer, as Doug mentioned earlier, if they want to blanch vegetables or have boiling water to throw some pasta in and put on the stove for 2 minutes, it's all done at that point. So the benefits are numerous, and I think you've all, just to kind of add one more thing, I don't want to use the piggyback the crisis we're in right now, but early on you guys been to the store and you saw the guy that came out with a cart full of bottled water. Nobody else got anything. I never had to worry about it in my house because I just kind of left it off and went home and drank my pure tasting water right out of the tap. So there's that benefit as well. So we're going to wait until this is all over and go back to an image like that and say, remember this guy? Remember what happened back then when you couldn't get water, but this guy took it all? You don't have to worry about that today, because if you do a HydroTap, you're going to get pure tasting, boiling, chilled, sparkling water anytime you want it, as long as you like, and not have to worry about that. Unfortunately, we can't dispense toilet paper, but that's a whole different story, so we'll work on that. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Yeah, this is Tom. I've got just quick 2 questions. On that reverse osmosis, you mentioned PSI, but what is the minimum PSI they need, even if it's a whole home system? Is it 20 or what is it?
It's actually closer to 40.
40?
Tom, so 40 and then up to about 100. Doug, is 140 or 120? It's in between.
35 to 120.
Oh, 35. Okay, it's even
Yes.
less. Okay, all right, 35 to 120.
35 pounds would be the minimum, right?
Minimum,
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, the second question I have on that all-in-one that you can use, bypass it if you're doing dishes type thing you'd mentioned earlier. At what is all-in-one?
The Celsius all-in-one?
Yeah,
one?
the Celsius piece.
Yeah, this one
When
here.
you do the dishwater, does that bypass the filter and just go with the
Yes.
water you normally have? So then you
Yes.
wouldn't be getting filtered water that way.
No, the idea is
Okay.
not to waste filtered water to wash dishes, obviously, and no one ever does
No,
that.
well, that's what I was wondering. I just wanted to make sure that was how it works. So, okay, that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to add. The filter life, the filter will dispense about 1,500 gallons of filtered water before you you get an indication on the faucet where it starts to blink. You can look at the screen down below, the LCD screen that tells you to change the filter. So it's very, very automatic. The way you find out the sparkling water needs to be changed is because the water goes flat and you're just drinking chilled water at that point. So you need that prompts you to go back and change out the CO2 tank and get back into the business of drinking sparkling water. So that system on the residential side, it comes with 2 canisters. Each canister will dispense about 400 glasses of water before you have to change out to the next one. So you get about 800 total. On the commercial side, it's a 5-pound canister. It's a larger one. Will dispense about 1,500 glasses before, I think actually 1,400, I apologize. 1,400 glasses of sparkling water before you change that out. Okay, I know that question will come up, so.
This is Stephanie, and I have a couple questions as well. And you might have mentioned it, so if you did, I apologize. Did you tell us what the GPM for those faucets is?
Doug, do you know that answer? The GPM.
Yes, 1.5.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
That'll also
and
be
then-
on the, I'm sorry, that'll also
No,
be
no,
on
go ahead.
that'll be on a rating plate as well for it too, that will actually come with the installs, just so that you have that, because a lot of times I think that's necessary. So yeah, it'll be there in writing for that particular,
Perfect.
for that question as well. That's a good question.
And is it easy to buy the canisters and install them? Because I'm assuming the homeowners are going to do it themselves, not have to call a plumber.
The answer is yes to all of that.
Okay.
You guys will be stocking those yourselves
Okay.
in your warehouse.
Okay.
You already have the systems and faucets already there. I'm sure, I haven't looked at the order in detail, the stocking order, but I'm sure you've got CO2 and filters already in your barn. If not, I'm sure there'll be some place in your warehouse as well.
Okay. And then last question, I promise. The font for the first faucets that you showed, are they finish matched to the faucet?
Yes.
Okay.
The outer ring of the font, which let me go back to that so we can all look at it. See that ring right there
Huh?
will match the faucet. The mesh will always be stainless steel in the middle.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Good questions though. I really appreciate that. Thank you. One thing I wanted to bring to your attention, you'll have this slide presentation anytime you want it, but you can see all the certifications we have. All of, I don't want to go through them all, but obviously UL, CSA, and some others. There's a lot of NSF certification, NS49. We're working on NSF 60, and there's more and more to come. So if there are any competitors that sort of surface, like maybe Growy is not really a competitor. They have something that sort of, pardon my expression, they sort of half-assed it because it's not really something they really want to do in a big way. But there's a couple of brands in England. There was one in Australia. They're sort of regional. They have none of these certifications, by the way. So if somebody says, hey, how does Zip compare to a Vibro? Say, first of all, it's approved to be used in the US. It's got UL approval and among others. Secondly, it performs much better, but we can get into that later. If somebody's somehow stumbles into a Vibro unit, let me know. I doubt you will, but just in case. So we have all these certifications. Please make sure that somebody asks you a question, take a look at that, or send them this page, and they'll be more than happy to realize that we have been certified by everybody at this point. Any other questions? Thank you, Stephanie, by the way. I really appreciate those are good questions.
Thanks.
Hey, David, can you kind of give people a little bit of lay of the land as it relates to Ferguson?
Yes. We're going to treat Ferguson very much like if you all sold Viking previously. I think some of you are plumbing people, so you never really knew about that. Ferguson will be buying basically regionally. So any Ferguson locations in your territory will be buying directly from you. I'm personally trying to get some things set up with them on a national level in order to come up with a national program for Ferguson, but the purchasing will be done through you guys. So if you go in and do training with them, like you have been, presentations, events, sales directly, you guys are basically going to be the direct link to Ferguson at a local level, and we'll try to work something out with them on a national level. So far, it's been sort of hit and miss. We're not really making great headway with them, in all honesty. But we've had conversations. Obviously, this pandemic really delayed things even more. So hopefully, they don't put us on the back burner too much further. There's a sister distributor of yours, the distributor of yours, Pinnacle. Have great relationships with them, and that's kind of, they're sort of paving the way for us to be in there and talking to them, trying to get something on a corporate level. But for the time being, Ferguson is just treated as an individual dealer for you guys, as it is right now. I don't think you've got, it's not a shock to them because they're used to this process. So if there are any concerns for you, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to help walk you through that as well.
Just
Ramsey,
a couple. Well, I was just going to add a couple of things. So we have the same pricing out there that Pinnacle does, so there shouldn't be any pricing issues. So that's one piece of good news, just one less thing to have to potentially deal with. And then they have, as I understand it, they have had some success, as has Purcell Murray, with in some Ferguson sales situations. So the opportunity is certainly there with the showrooms. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that the pricing should be consistent with what they're seeing in other markets. The purchasing side, as David said, will be consistent. And then there have been some successes. So I think there are win opportunities at the showrooms.
Honestly, and thank you for that, Ramsey, but we've got, several locations in Southern and Northern California already on board with displays and buying product. 2 or 3 in South Florida already. We're getting some couple in Virginia, up around DC. Not much in the middle, to be honest, but that's lack of effort on our part. Honestly, it's kind of, we're just trying to do too many things at one time. But wherever we've had conversations with Ferguson locally, it's been very, very well received. I mean, Ferguson, as you know, is an appliance and plumbing company, and this is an appliance and plumbing product. It's all in one, so to speak. So it's very appealing to them. It's a great fit from their standpoint. It's a no-brainer for a lot of people when they see it. So please, I encourage you, go into Ferguson's before you go anywhere else, frankly, unless it's a disruption to your market. Then I'll let you make that decision locally. So, but please lean on me if you need to. And by the way, Ramsey, I just got the brand new price sheet for Pinnacle. I'm going to forward it to you if you want it. Just literally.
Yeah. Thanks. I was going to reach out to Andrew and see if he had some new stuff. So that's great. I appreciate that.
I cleared it with him already. He's good with it. So.
Wonderful.
So,
thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Heather. Hi, David.
Hi, Heather.
To ask you, I see that it has a 2-year warranty.
Mhm.
How is it? How do we handle things if something does go wrong with it? Is there we reach out to Zip Water directly, or?
Doug, you got this one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, those are good questions. In fact, this is going to be part of my loop around here, but this is a good opportunity to segue right into that. There are actually a few ways to reach out to us. Number one, you can go directly to us through the website on a work request and or a service request, and or directly to myself. I'll give you that right now. You'll all have my contact information moving forward throughout your entire staff, not only for warranty questions, but also for any support that you may need from both the service and the installation side. We will be asking for maybe some help from you, from partners that you have existing now that would like to partner up with us to help support that servicing side and or installation side. I made several contacts and calls in your geographical area. I've got a lot of relationships built that are ready for coming on board. Although this all kind of came into a training, problem, not necessarily a problem, but just a issue to where it was able to get out to these companies to get them fully trained and on board right on as far as hands-on. But we continue to do that with these type of meetings, with trainings. But if there is any need for any backup with warranty and or anything at all when it comes to service or installation, you can reach out to myself and or through our website. In fact, that's the nice thing is the website will automatically go to our office, which will distribute that right to directly to that individual, either within your state and or to myself to assure that that gets taken care of, and it's monitored 24 hours. So we're assuring that all requests are taken care of immediately, whether it be with a phone call or Skype at this time. and or with an immediate partner that'll be on hand. But in the meantime, we'll be asking for some support from you so that we can maybe introduce ourselves to partners that you have intact right now that you work well with. So that will be something I will be reaching out to you for.
All right, Heather, our best laid plan was for Doug and I to come in and do a presentation to you guys in person. Doug was going to do an installation and you guys were going to bring in all your installers. We had this conversation with Ramsey way back when, saying like on the day we come in, we'll have all the installers in and they can sit through a presentation with Doug and I can sit through a sales presentation with you guys and sort of tandem it like we are right now, but at least in person. And then as you identify service and installation companies for us, we would love to be able to go throughout your territory and sit down with 4 or 5 each time and go through the process and make sure they're all developed. Meantime, we channel all the requests to us for now. So as Doug mentioned,
Right.
so
we do have a very
we still plan to do that. It's just
we do. We have an aggressive plan as soon as we get off our chain.
Thanks, guys.
Sure.
Thank you.
This is
else?
Stephanie. I have another question. I'm sorry.
Please keep them coming. We've got all afternoon. So.
I just jumped in your website and the where to buy doesn't seem to be having Texas or any distributors where they could actually go and buy. Is that going to be updated or am I looking at the wrong website?
Were you on us.zipwater.com?
Maybe.
Because there's
Can you repeat that?
Yes. Yep, I was.
Yeah, us.zipwater.com. You probably don't have any dealers set up yet in your market.
Right. Okay.
So that's probably why nothing is showing up at this point. But as you add them, we'll obviously add those guys. So I implore you, not just, please, as you add a dealer, contact me directly personally. I need that dealer's information if there's a display set up with them. And we will list them on our website. We will, put their website on there, their contact information, everything, just so you can turn people over to them. So there's a form we fill out for the static displays. I think, Ramsey, is that display in your showroom yet? Have you set it up? I know it's been kind of crazy lately.
Sorry, I was muted. It's not, the faucets are not installed, but the displays have been moved up. So it's been shockingly busy still. So as soon as they get some air, they'll or come up for air rather, they'll get the faucets installed on it.
Okay. They should already be on there.
I believe it is. Hey, Marty, I believe it might be installed already in Arizona, though. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have it already in our showroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that came out of the crate. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. I figured you'd like it, Marty. I know you have an eye for that stuff. But that display comes out of the crate exactly the way it is. You just plug it in. The lights.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So those displays, I'm probably going to toss you guys about 15 of these this year. I've got Ramsey. I sent you the first 4. I've got more coming. They're on the water right now, as a matter of fact.
Great.
From Sydney. So as soon as they land, I'll send you another 12 or so more, or at least that. Those free of charge, you guys. So, but I just needed to identify dealers, and there's a form that I need you to fill out and have the dealer sign that they've got it. They're going to place it in the right place. It's no cost to anybody but me. Or Zip. So I want to make sure that we're sort of judicious about who these displays go into. Live displays you can do all day long. I'll work out some discount structure with Ramsey and you guys can get those live. Ideally, you want both of those in there. You want a live display and a static display. The static display demonstrates the finishes, the designs, how the product looks over a sink, how it looks over a font, how it looks under your cabinet. And it's a very concise 39-inch wide, 24-inch deep. It's a really great presentation of what the product will look like in the kitchen. And of course, the live demonstration would be what the water tastes like. How hot is it? How cold is it? How pure does it taste? What's the sparkling water consistency like? All of those things. So if you have the 1-2 punch, ideally, that's really what I would love for you to find out first. If you go into a dealer and say, would you be willing to put on a live display as well as a static display and put us in a prominent presentation? You can sell a lot of these. And a dealer that can sell, in your mind, a dealer that can sell 3 of these a month to start with would be a good fit. Dealer that can sell 2 maybe, but dealer that says I can sell 1 of these a month, probably not worth your time, to be honest with you. I would focus more on the bigger layer first and work my way back from there. But that's that's for later conversation.
Yeah, guys, I don't remember if we sent out the picture of the display in that first round. I'll do that. And then, you know, obviously, like kind of like David was saying, let's focus on the primary markets, not necessarily secondary markets, at least for a kind of initial display pass, and focus on the, you know, if it's not the big three, the Moore, Morrison, Ferguson, then the, you know, the big three for those markets. And then we'll kind of prioritize that list and use all 15 of those or 14 after the showroom. So we'll get them out as quickly as possible.
We've already had contact from Morrison, by the way, Morsco.
Right.
So the one in Phoenix here, and a couple in Texas, one in Oklahoma. We already are in 2 showrooms in California that are Morsco showrooms, so they know who we are. It shouldn't be a stretch for us to be in those showrooms, and it's probably a very good fit for us as well. So that's among others. You know, you have a lot more. Actually, Texas has quite a few dealers that are actually showing plumbing and appliances. It's kind of become a trend in Texas. It seems like I see that more in your market, Ramsey, than anywhere else, to be honest. So not sure why, but I like it, whatever it is. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Melissa, I have a question with regards to installation. When you say installers, do you mean plumbers, or like who are we targeting for installation?
Well, again, another good question. We are targeting both. In some cases, it is kind of a hybrid type of product, but we're finding that in a lot of cases, it's depending on where it's going. In some cases, when it's commercial, you know, licensing has to be a part of who we select and who we add when it comes to the plumbing side of it. Although we're finding that these are very similar to I would say a luxury dishwasher type of installation. In fact, some cases much easier to install than a dishwasher. So the complexity isn't necessarily there, but to your point, it is determining who the best, I should say, the best field should be for installing these. We found that both have been successful. It's depending on determining, first of all, their qualifications in doing that. And that's where we usually come in to help filter out who we are looking for an installer. But plumbers as well as high-end appliance installers have done extremely well in both cases with this product. I think it just comes into their the atmosphere that they're installing in, where we would choose one over the other. But most importantly, that they're both all installers are going to be vigorously trained for this. There's a lot of, as I said, tools for this and resources. Perhaps I would say part of what goes in on installing this is more as the familiarity.
Okay.
That's the challenge. Not too many people are familiar with this, and they have a tendency sometimes to over try to install it. So if anything, we just have to reel back a little bit on some of the installers and what they're looking to do with these. So, but with that, we grow with both. I hope that answers it without being too vague, but we actually grow with both type of installers, both plumbers as well as high-end appliance installers.
Yeah.
I could see these going into some larger master bathrooms. Have you seen much of that or any of it?
Yes, to answer your question, one of the homes I mentioned in California, and actually 2 of them went into 2 different bathrooms. It's sort of an area right, in the bathroom. In one of these bathrooms it's more like a suite. It's not just a bathroom. So yes, somewhere around the bathroom it's more like a spa. They have a jacuzzi, bathtub, and things like that, and they want a sparkling water while they soak. That's really what it was used for. So yes, those high-end luxury bathrooms, I've already seen it happen. So it's coming. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Sounds like we've taken enough of your time. We actually exceeded an hour, so thank you for your patience, and hopefully we gave you enough to go by today. Appreciate your time. If there's any questions at all, Jen has my email loaded in the system, which probably someplace in it has my phone number as well. Please share that, spread it around, call me anytime you need to. Great time to be reaching out because, working from home mostly right now. So if you catch me in the car, it's probably I'm running to the grocery store or something like that. Otherwise, at my desk, I'm putting in more hours in my office than I ever have. But it's not a bad thing. I'm at home. So please call, email, reach out if you have if you think of something later. We'll be around. I'm sure the same goes for Doug as well. Without
Yes, it does.
okay, all right. Thank you so much, guys. We hope this was beneficial, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.